Hello and welcome to the Raw review here on Wrestling with Regret. It's the first episode of Raw after a very newsworthy Royal Rumble pay-per-view. If you want my thoughts on that show, the link to my review of the pay-per-view is right here in the corner of your screen. New announced team on Raw this week, you have Tom Phillips, you have Byron Saxton, which, okay, and Jerry Lawler. Quite the revolving door of announcers we've seen on Raw since October with the draft. We've seen Vic Joseph, Dio Madden, and Samoa Joe all come and go on the announced team. And meanwhile, Jerry Lawler has been the constant the entire time, but truthfully, I don't think he's ever been the strongest part of any particular permutation of the announced team. Anyway, the show opens up with Drew McIntyre, the winner of the Men's Rumble, making a speech. He's very quick and to the point. He wants to challenge Brock Lesnar for the championship at WrestleMania. He also issues an open challenge. He wants to throw a Claymore party. Out come Gallows and Anderson of the OC, and they each say they want to take on Drew. He says, you know, like Tommy Dreamer, I'm hardcore, I'll take them both. And sure enough, it's a handicap match, and Drew makes short work of them with a couple of claymores. You know, like, look, I like Drew. I think this made him look incredibly strong, but at the same time, I always hate when a single star decimates an established tag team. Even if I like the guy, I don't care for that practice, especially when the OC are built as the greatest tag team in the world. Like, are you telling me there's no jobber tag teams you could have had be the sacrificial lamb for that one? I mean, it's not, you know, the OC, granted, are pretty much cronies. They're like stooges, and they do get beat kind of often, but by other tag teams, not by one dude. As strong as Drew is, and as strong as they want to make him look, that to me is a bit of a step back. Anyway, after the match, Brock Lesnar shows up, hits Drew with an F5, so he gets his first measure of revenge after the big elimination in the Rumble the night before, and of course now we have that championship match set for Mania. It's going to be Lesnar, McIntyre, can't wait for that one. It's a flashback to 2009 as Rey Mysterio takes on MVP, who was a surprise participant in the Men's Rumble match on Sunday. I gotta say, I've been lucky enough to have some great conversations with the guy at shows and at conventions over the last couple of years, so it's really warms my heart to see him get another shot here in WWE. Great to see him back there. He's still got the moves, as we saw here in this match with Mysterio. It does end when Rey hits like a 619, but like, MVP's getting up and turning away, so he takes it in the back. Like, what is that? Why did MVP get up? That was really weird. So Rey hits him in the back with a 619, and then does a splash to win the match. It was a good little showing for both guys, but again, yeah, good to see MVP on TV again, and it looks like it's not the end for him here. According to reports, he's got at least a few more dates left to go. We'll see where that takes him. Aleister Black takes on local talent Kenneth Johnson. The match begins, the match ends, and right after that match is over, Aleister has the microphone and says, for too long, I have been waiting for people to come pick a fight with me. He does the sit down, the lights change dramatically, and says, in Soviet Russia, Black picks fight with you. So now he's issued his warning to the Raw locker room. I'm wondering who his next victim will be. Raw tag titles on the line as Seth Rollins and Bud Murph defend against Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe. Seth is all smiles despite losing the Rumble the night before, and he warns Drew McIntyre that the fans will stab him in the back before he knows it. You know what? He might be onto something. He might be right with that one, knowing the trend of how fans seem to react to booking and everything. KO and Joe come out, and they suspect Seth of laying a trap for them, and so Seth is, you know what? To show you I'm a good guy, here's AOP. Here's live footage of them in my locker room. And Kevin and Joe are like, well, you know, we do work at a company where people are filming with cameras all the time, so is this pre-taped? And so Seth, has one of them say something to Kevin to prove it's a live shot, and so with that proven, in come the Viking Raiders to attack AOP. So with the muscle disposed of, the match can now begin. Partway through the match, Joe seemingly injures himself after a dive, so he's taken out of the match during the commercial break. Not sure if that was a work or a shoot or not, but anyway, Kevin's left to fend for himself. He does fight pretty valiantly. He even hits Seth with the stunner, but Seth's not a legal man. Buddy rolls him up, grabs the basketball shorts to win, and the champions retain. Good little story here, good match, and again, valiant fight by Kevin Owens. The war between Kevin and Samoa Joe and the Messiah Maniacs clearly not over yet. And speaking of Seth, we go backstage to the Raw Women's Champion, Becky Lynch, who cuts a very Seth-esque kind of promo where she's very confident and full of herself, almost to a fault here, where she says, I've called all my shots, I've beaten everyone who I want to beat, and now I'll beat who I want to, not because I want to fight them, not because I feel I have to. It was surprisingly kind of a heelish promo by Becky at this point, but we'll see where it goes. I'll give her a pass for now. But she does say that if Charlotte does challenge her for the title at WrestleMania, it won't be the first time, but she'll make sure it's the last. Shows off the custom artwork on the back of her jacket saying she's the GOAT. And so, yeah, I know that I said maybe it's just heelish for the sake of sounding heelish and we'll give her a pass, but based on what we see later in the night, there might be more to it than that. U.S. Championship match as Andrade defends against Humberto Carrillo once again. Well, folks, the streak is over. Zelina Vega shows up in a segment way after Aleister Black. It's not even like close anymore. But my big question is, why does Humberto Carrillo get another U.S. Championship match? Andrade won clean as a whistle in that match on Sunday. Does he have Batista's infinite rematch cheat code or something acquired? Like, how did he get this matchup? He's lost so many title matches at this point. It really doesn't help him at all. Anyway, the match is okay. Humberto hits a big moonsault, and you think he's going to win, but Zelina jumps in and attacks Humberto. The match is thrown out. It's a DQ. So, the heels are sneaky once again. But at this point, Humberto snaps. He beats the hell out of Andrade and hits him with a hammerlock DDT on the exposed concrete as payback for what happened over a month ago. And so Humberto is the most intense and just the best look of Humberto I've ever seen so far this time on the main roster. And meanwhile, Zelina's crying over this as if she's not learned from the responsibilities of her actions. Anyway, like, this was cool. Like, the aftermath of the match was all right, and it turns out that this was done to write Andrade off for 30 days because apparently he violated wellness. So we'll see him in 30 days. But if that was the case, why not just have Humberto win on Sunday? We then see Charlotte Flair, the winner of the Women's Rumble match, coming out to gloat about her victory, and she says she has not yet decided which championship she's going to fight for. Out come the Kabuki Warriors, and Asuka basically tells Charlotte that if she were in the Women's Rumble match, she would have won, and Charlotte goes, "Are you challenging me?" They beat her up, we go to commercial, and the match is on, Charlotte versus Asuka. These two never really seem to have a bad match with each other. It's really good work here, and Asuka's trying to tie Charlotte up in all these different submissions, but Charlotte is able to fight out of things and persevere. She gets the figure 8 locked in when Kairi Sane hits the insane elbow onto Charlotte as she's bridging in the submission. So the match is thrown out. 2 DQ finishes in a row, kind of lame. But then Charlotte kind of chases them off and beats up Kairi and stands tall. So that was kind of disappointing. But man, is Charlotte, are they really trying Charlotte as a babyface again? Like, and are they really going to set up like her as a babyface, Becky as a heel? I don't know how to feel about that one. Because like I said, Becky came off kind of like a heel in her promo, and I didn't know if that was just like elation and bravado after getting that weight off her back, beating Asuka, and she's going to revert back to like what she's been, or if this is going to be where she's pulling a Seth and she's turning heel because she's full of herself and she's going to blame the fans for making her, like I don't want to see the roles reversed here. I'd like to keep it face Becky, heel Charlotte. Like Charlotte as a face makes no sense. It makes less sense for Charlotte as a face than Ric Flair as a face. That makes any sense. Flair as a face always seems a lot more genuine than Charlotte as a face. The Street Profits are backstage. Kelly shows up to 0 pop, and things just are really awkward between all three of those folks. Can we just dump out of this segment as fast as possible? 24/7 championship match up next as Mojo Rawley defends against No Way Jose. But before the match begins, Mojo's on the microphone and says, this is no longer the hide and seek championship, and he introduces his new offensive lineman, aka his bodyguard, Riddick Moss. Speaking of guys who are in NXT for a hell of a long time, along with Mojo Rawley, last time we saw Riddick, I believe, he was wrestling somebody and he had the Riddick regimen. It was kind of like the Simon system, like workout. He had like a weight and like a shaker cup or something. That was the last time I remember seeing Riddick Moss. And before that, he was teaming with Tino Sabatelli, who unfortunately has been out on the shelf with an injury for forever at this point. So giving Riddick something to do here is the muscle for Mojo. And so anyway, the match happens and it's really quick. Mojo wins and retains the title pretty quickly against No Way Jose. But then one of Jose's Rosebuds shows up and rolls up Mojo to win the championship. It's R-Truth in disguise, but he is quickly stopped by Mojo and Riddick, and so Mojo regains the title, and that's that. So no more fun times of R-Truth as champion. I'm going to reserve judgment on Riddick as Mojo's muscle here, but I will say, if he's going to be your offensive lineman, if you're going to be part of a team together, and if Mojo's like the quarterback to Riddick's offensive lineman, then maybe they should have like matching uniforms since they're on the same team. Just a thought. Lana takes on Liv Morgan in singles action here. Rusev and Bobby Lashley have been barred from ringside for this one, and the only way they can describe this relationship between the two ladies is a complicated relationship. We know nothing more about this relationship now than we did like 4 weeks ago, but to Byron Saxton's credit, at least he does some kind of like plot moving with his dialogue where he says, who knows what Lana did to this poor woman, kind of leaving the possibility they may someday elaborate on what Lana did. Anyway, at least they're not totally ignoring it. Anyway, the match is like okay. Liv beats Lana with a flatliner off like the middle and top ropes, kind of a seated thing on the rope and fall back in the flatliner. So good win for Liv. Does this mean like the feud between them is over? Or are we going to see some more, no post-match promo? Are we going to get anything to expand on this next week? Here's hoping, I guess. In your final actual match of the evening, it's Eric Rowan versus Brendan Weiss. Good to see they're back in the practice of giving these jobbers names once again. Anyway, total squash, and that's essentially your main event. As we go into our final segment of the evening, Edge finally comes out to address the fans and everything. And boy, yeah, I'm glad to see him back and everything, but I got really tired of hearing the phrase, "You think you know me," like 58 times in the course of Monday night with all the highlight packages and the recap of him in the Rumble match and everything. We just heard it so damn much, I got kind of tired of it. Anyway, Edge shows up and basically explains what happened, where, you know, after his retirement, he wants to make these what-ifs disappear, so he got another neck surgery. He got in the best shape of his life at 40-something years old, and he comes back here, and he wants to end his career on his terms, he says. He says, who knows how long this is going to last, but I want you all to join me on the ride. And he says, I have grit. Ooh, he has grit. Put that on a t-shirt. And then as he's talking, Randy Orton shows up, the other side of Rated RKO. So he shows up, they hug in the ring. Orton sounds very heartfelt, where he says, you know, when I was young and stupid, you were the only person who would like help me out. We're family. We're brothers. What say we bring Rated RKO back together? The crowd pops huge for it, and then Orton just dashes the dreams of everyone in the audience, hits Edge with an RKO out of nowhere, and then he gets a chair into the ring, hits Edge in the back, and Edge sells it like his neck got re-aggravated. Orton hits him with a one-man concerto. I think it's the closest thing we've seen to like a straight-up headshot with a chair in wrestling, at least in WWE, in ages. I can't remember the last time we've seen that, at least not intentionally. Anyway, Orton stands tall, and the crowd is stunned as we fade to black. But, you know, I'm far from the first person to say this, but you're telling me Edge has no friends in the locker room? All these people are so happy Edge is back, and like no one comes out to save him and all this? I mean, what's going on, guys? Come on, no one has friends in wrestling, or everyone's got their noise-canceling headphones on. They know nothing of what's going on in the ring. My final grade for this week's Raw is a C+. I felt that they did a pretty good job following up on the three biggest angles to come out of the Sunday's pay-per-view. The two Rumble match winners and Edge's return. I think those were handled fairly well, especially Edge's return. But everything else just felt kind of down the middle of the road for me on this one. I think, you know, I'm going to wait and see how a lot of these angles play out, because the train to WrestleMania is a churning, and we're going that direction now. Obviously, you know, we see what's going to happen with, you know, we see that, you know, we got Brock and Drew coming up. The stuff with Orton at the end with Edge really, to me, sets up a real big money match for Mania. I mean, potentially. I mean, a lot of things could happen between now and April, but that seems to me where they're going to go with that, and that kind of makes the most sense based on what we've seen. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where a lot of things go. But this week's episode of Raw, for me, it was just like, you know, it was above average is the best way I could describe it. But let me know what you thought about this week's Raw in the comments section below, and give it a letter grade by going to the iCard in the corner of your screen. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.